Welcome to Women Who Brand, a podcast that spotlights inspiring women shaping the future of brands and culture. And I'll do this by putting my makeup on. It will be a simple one. So I'm using a lip liner and gloss. This one is from ELF. And a little bit of blush here. And I think we'll be ready to start. So, makeup is ready. I'm Alejandra Salazar, founder and CEO of CROING, a creative agency and a cultural hub that is part of the 0.1% of creative agencies founded by a woman. And I'll be your host today. This podcast is part of an initiative of CROING to support and guide women in marketing leadership position by listening to other stories and insights, because we believe that's one way we can move our industry towards something more meaningful and real for our audiences. Women Who Brand are creative, strategic, and visionary forces redefining the world of marketing by leading teams and building brands that connect with people. This season, we will go beyond inspiration and explore how these women build culture, lead with purpose, and make brand decisions that you can apply to your own journey. In this episode, we talk with Cara Ray, the Senior Director of Product Strategy at La Colombe. We talk about collaboration, and coming from someone that leads product strategy, it was very insightful. She sits at the intersection of creativity and strategy, because product is what we sell, right? So it's not only the starting point, but also the one that needs to evolve first. I love that for her, product has to be people-centric, and I think that makes everything else easier. We also talk about the trend back toward the physical, the long form, the complete, like listening to a full album or experiencing something fully. Something Gen Z is bringing back after being lost a bit in the digital evolution. So we talk about how brands will start thinking less fast and more full. She shared about how proud she is that La Colombe is partnering with the national soccer team and how it just makes sense given the craft behind both the sport and their product. And she reminded us, don't be afraid to repeat yourself. Ask for confirmation that your message is being heard. Everyone is in their own head, and sometimes repetition is what helps your ideas move forward. I can testify to that. So now, join me in welcoming our next woman who brand, Cara Ray. Hi!
Hello, good to see you.
Good to see you again. So nice to see you. Honestly, we will talk a little bit about how we met, but it's my honor to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here and to be talking more about product and marketing and a little bit about my journey throughout.
Love it, love it, love. So, for those who don't know, Cara Ray is the Senior Director of Product Strategy at La Colombe. I met Cara last year at Brandwidth. I was with Angie, my sister, there, and she was still at Blue Bottle at the time, a brand that I love so much. And you know that because I told you. And I told you at the time, Blue Bottle was part of my monthly budget when I was living in LA.
Yeah.
So, when I heard from you, I'm like, oh, I want to get to know her. Since the time I feel, or I'm not sure, but I at the time I started with this podcast, and we've been trying to get you on. So now you're here working for another company, but it's a company that I also love, and we are so excited to have you. So yeah, looking forward to get started. So my love, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got this role, and what is it about?
Absolutely. I think it's sometimes important to start from the beginning. I talk and sound like I'm from Southern California because that's where I'm from. I grew up with a family who really insisted on care and curiosity, and that has truly driven everything that I've done and how I've gotten to this space. When we were talking before, you talked about how marketing can be approached in so many different ways. You can have so many different career paths, and that really inspired me actually because that is exactly my career path and how I got here. I actually started by stocking shelves for Nestle.
Wow.
I was really curious about how consumers interacted with product and just consumer behavior in general. And if you look around right now, I think you can all find at least 2 to 3 CPG products, and that impacts someone's life on a daily basis. So why not start at the largest food company in the world and start understanding how when that product is on shelf, it impacts the consumer relationship. And so it taught me so much: pack sizing, dimensions, what stands out when you're thinking about what to put on packaging. And from there, I just wanted to move faster, and I wanted to start shaping that experience and not just observing it. And so I got into e-commerce, where I built some of the first shoppable websites on Walmart.com for Nestle. And from there, curiosity just kept me going. I went over to Blue Bottle where I wanted to start to understand how we could kind of demystify specialty coffee. And so when we met, I was talking about something that I was so proud of called Nola, this little sub brand
Mm-hmm.
that kind of
Correct.
unlocked a new kind of consumer type for them. We launched instant coffee when I was there, and we launched into Nespresso pods, which was incredible. And I'd been there for 7 years, put my whole heart and soul into that brand. And when I was approached with this new opportunity, it was more on this curiosity of how could you build more? How could I expand my knowledge and go into a company that is really disrupting the market and aligns with my ethos so much? They care. I've never seen a company care so much about the quality of the product that they put in. The thing that wins and is constantly said over and over again is this the best food? Is this the best beverage? And that wins above all else.
Love
And
it.
then they don't want to keep it exclusive. They want to build it for everyone. And that's kind of disruptive in the CPG world. And so that's why I took this next shift and change and kind of how I got here. I want to see how we can uncover that for coffee.
I love it. It's so interesting. And what specifically like is your responsibility, let's say so, because you mentioned your projects or your
Yeah.
responsibility previously, and now what is it? Like what is it about?
Yeah, so I lead product strategy across
Love it.
eBay, CPG, D2C, and hospitality. So essentially that's supporting how and what we make and how we show up as a brand. It's really kind of where consumer insights, which our team is so incredible at, our like creative team and business strategy kind of collide, which is a really fun place to be.
Love it. Love it. No, it sounds such a responsibility, especially from a company that, using your words, really cares about the product that they put out there. You know, like
Totally.
it's number one priority and you leading it, you are like in a key role and in a key decision making role. So I love that. So now it's not the question that's coming, but now that you mentioned the insights team, so I'm wondering how, from your role in general, because you have been in product, also like your previous role was also in product.
Mhm.
So, what's the importance between the insights you get and like the product you end up, I don't know, putting out there? Because I know for
Mm.
Nola, that was such an important part. So, how do you approach it in terms of, okay, this is my role of product? How important are the consumer insights versus marketing and all the things that I guess you need to consider?
Yeah, it's a lot to consider and it's a lot of voices to be heard. I think for me as a consumer, when something really sticks out and is successful, it's because they've put the consumer first and they don't lose sight of that. And I think it's a trope that you hear over and over again, but it's
Mhm.
at the end of the day what matters. You're
Love it.
you're doing everything in service of making someone's life just 1% better. And
Love
so
it.
if you lose sight of, then the rest of it starts to fall to the wayside
Love it.
and stops becoming relevant.
I love that. Yeah, it makes so much sense. So I want to talk about your leadership style because I can imagine that not only you lead a team, but also you talk with other teams because, as you say, it's like where everything collides. So if you could describe your leadership style, how would you do it?
Yeah, I would hope, and what I strive for are kind of three tenets. One is transparency. I think growing up through a few different organizations, having that transparency and open conversation with your team, I think is critical and is how you build trusted relationships, which is that second tenet of building trust and openness within your team and kind of creating that space for them to take bold swings. And then third is back to like what I was brought up on, like this curiosity, like seeking
Mm-hmm.
to understand, really working to like, what is that next thing? What's around the corner? Like seeking to understand that piece. So I would say transparency, building trust, and then having that underlying
I
curiosity.
love it. And how do you nurture that curiosity? For example, because when you said that what's coming, my agency, we're always looking also to what's next, what's coming in marketing, what's coming for our consumer, like with live
Yeah.
shopping and AI and all the things. So I always take as a reference what's happening in Asia in general, which to me they are 10 years ahead, right? So it's
Yes.
kind of like that's the source of my inspiration sometimes. And also going to the past, right? What people actually care about. I feel it's
Mhm.
like that combination. Also, when I do it, I think in campaigns and communication and how to get,
Yeah.
I never think on a product specifically beyond the products we work. Like we have our own products in the agency, but in general, it's more campaign driven. So in your case, where do you find that inspiration? Like, how do you nurture?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you can be constantly inspired by the world around you. We're in New York City, like there is so much diversity of thought and experience here, and leading by diving into some of those experiences, some of those really interesting like food experiences. I think there were some like interesting grocery shops that just opened up recently. There's
Yes.
a lot to be inspired by in the immediate kind of surroundings, but I'm also inspired by the different like levels of my team bringing in different ideas as well, and creating some of that space for us to have the conversations of what have you been seeing in the market, what have you been
Mhm.
seeing in the market, what are your friends excited by. We're all a huge age range, and I think that starts to build a little bit of like interesting tension points too, because every age is kind of interested in something else, but there might be this underlying kind of theme that you can pull from
I love it. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes we try to get, I mean, and I know you mentioned you focus a lot on the insights of your
it.
audience, but sometimes we think everything is outside, and with the team members we have in the team, which they are there for a reason.
Totally.
Sometimes we can find like wonders there. We have at the agency something called the morning meetings where we get together for 10 minutes, and everyone, like regardless of the area of the agency you work on, you go there and we pitch. Like, oh, we're pitching for this client. Everyone drop ideas or thoughts or whatever is in your mind
Yeah,
in this category. And I have to say that many of the biggest ideas that I'm proud to share or that are right now competing for Super Bowl spots came from that meeting from someone that is not from the creativity team, because we are all consumers.
exactly. I was thinking
Uh,
that same thing. We're all consumers at the end of the day. We're all watching those Super Bowl ads. So
correct.
we should take that brain trust, because I feel so lucky to work with so many incredibly smart, driven people. Like, of course you got to take their insights. I love this 10-minute stand-up idea. I might steal it.
Look, it's so important. And
Yeah.
honestly, no, I mean, I'm still, we've been doing it for 2 years already. I'm still in shock on how now my team, because before, I don't know who proposed it initially, but before I remember me being saying like, well, let's do the morning meeting to the ideas. And now it's like all the leaders are, I want the morning meeting. No, it's mine. And everyone wants the
That's
morning meeting
incredible.
because it's so important. And it's also a way to bounce your thoughts in a way and like prove certain stuff. Yeah, I recommend it 100%.
Yeah.
If you
I
ever
mean,
try it, let me know.
I will. I'll report back.
Okay, awesome. So, my love, through your career, which has been fascinating, how do you evaluate whether an idea or an initiative is the right one to move forward with? Do you have a specific process or is more of a feeling?
I think it's a little bit of an art form. I'd say I almost test ideas the way I test coffee. I like start with the human, and before a spreadsheet or a model, I have this gut check of like, does this make someone's daily ritual or day 1% better? And if it does, then there's something there to like dig into. But if I can't answer that one simple question, it feels like, okay, there's not enough there yet. And maybe that idea needs to be fostered a little bit more. But it's that first gut check that I start to evaluate. And then it becomes this balance between insight and instinct, I'd say.
Love it. So at Crowing, we believe at collaboration over competition. And that's challenging in the creative industry, especially
Sure.
agency side. So we also, and I think with the morning meeting, we already kind of talk about it, which is we really believe in working closely with our teams and partners, because honestly, to me, that's the way to create the best campaigns, culturally relevant campaigns, or at least something that is more human, because every human being is different. if we only follow one or two someone's idea, we're maybe targeting someone specifically, or we're missing the whole spectrum
Totally.
of humans that is out there. So to me, the more we collaborate and the even more agencies or teams or whatever, I feel the better ideas can be. But it is challenging because, for example, in my agency, we have our creative director, right? And she kind of dissect the ideas and she present the final ones. But
Yeah.
when we talk about collaborating with other agencies or with our clients and stuff, things become challenging.
Yeah.
And I guess that especially in your role, which as you said, you are like in that intersection, that collaboration might be also a challenge because everyone wants their solution in a way, or they see the things through their lenses, which is okay because that's like why they are there, right? So my question is, how do you approach collaboration between teams and external partners, and what tips do you have for keeping everyone in sync? Because as I said, a lot of my audience are CMOs or marketers
Mm.
in top leadership positions that might face this type of situations, and I know it's hard. So I love to know, how do you do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would echo that it's not easy, you know? Collaboration. It is incredible when it works, but like very hard to foster. And I think there's two things. One is understanding where people are coming from. I think that
Mhm.
this is typical but often forgotten, is everyone has their own goals that they're tracking to. And so kind of back to that leadership style of seeking to understand, there is a little bit of that, especially if you're about to kick off a project. Like, understand what people are being judged from their higher ups for, from the company. How is this relating to the operating plan? Those kinds of pieces are really starting. What are people driven by, right? And then, two, I think that helps kind of connect almost like a invisible thread between everyone, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to move the business forward, hopefully.
Correct.
And so when you see everyone's piece of truth from R&D to finance to brand and start to weave it together, I think it becomes more cohesive and easier to talk about as like a collective collaborative team, rather than just one team doing this, just one team doing this. We're all moving one thing forward.
I love it. And just by listening to your answer, I see how challenging it is, because it is.
Totally.
And when you were talking, I remember a previous conversation I have with the head of innovation and design and
Yeah.
the creative director, where I was like giving the creative director feedback, and the head of innovation was like, wait, but I did it for a reason. Like, there is a reason for me. Like, I need to be part of that conversation. And it's not that we wouldn't want her in the conversation. It was just like, I thought, like, okay, this is the feedback, blah, 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 move forward. And then she's like, wait, I need to say this because I did it for a reason. I have these goals, and that's why I did that. And then it was like, of course, you
Right.
did it for a reason. Of course, you need to be in the conversation. And it's something, even though, again, in the agency, we're pretty collaborative, these things can happen. We can, like, we don't have time, so we move forward. And then you can
Of
miss
course.
important things, which is others' perspective and others' goals, which are also important for the whole mission. So, thank you for sharing that. I think it will be super helpful for everyone listening. So now I think we got to know you a little bit, your background and your leadership style, and this, like, how would you solve this, like, collaboration or competition challenge. Now we want to talk about your point of view on how brands show up for people. The first question is, which trend do you find most exciting right now? Trending marketing.
I think maybe it's because I grew up with CDs, but I'm obsessed with this analog thing that Gen Z is into. This idea of going back to having something spark an entire moment. I went through that transition of CDs to iPods to everything digital, and love that this generation is going back to what is that physical object that evokes something. That idea of
Mhm.
like listening through a CD fully and not just skipping or adding to a playlist. It's reminiscent of creating a very specific moment that I think is really beautiful, that maybe the world got away from. And I'm really interested to see how brands play to this and kind of shift as we all shifted digital. How are we shifting back between the two, especially also growing up in my career through the e-commerce world, everything turning digital, this world of omni-channel almost disappearing, and now it's kind of coming back as this more fluid experience.
I love it. I was actually yesterday at a concert and
Yeah.
from an Argentinian musician, which is called Fito Páez.
Ooh,
He's a superstar in Argentina. And he was telling like, look, I
amazing.
did this album for you to listen the whole thing and have that
Totally.
trip. And I love that he said like, I know everyone wants to go on a trip lately, right? With like stimulation and stuff. Well,
Yeah.
if you listen the full album, it's intended for you to be on a trip, so do it. And yes, I feel the same feeling everyone is trying to get from mixing things. You can also
Mhm.
get for a, if you open yourself to a whole experience to
Mhm.
understand the full intention, which maybe sometimes also the brand pop-ups offer, because it's like you go this step, and it's like a full experience where you're just there following whatever
Totally.
is meant to be, right? Love
Yeah.
it.
How was the concert?
Great. No, because
Yeah.
he's a legend. He's an alive legend. So
Amazing.
I've been listening to his music since I'm a girl, and the concert was like 3 blocks away from my house. And I was
Oh
like,
my
I need to
gosh.
be there. And he's just, he's great. No, no, I had the best time. Concerts are also that if you think about it, because it's
Absolutely.
like you are spending 1 to 2 to 3 hours just at the mercy of whatever the artist wanna do in that
Right.
time, and it's also cool.
Totally. Concerts and live, I mean, music in general is really fun to talk about, but how that like connects to a full and immersive experience. Some concerts have just gotten like really inspiring of how do you like create an entire world. And I think, I don't
Exactly.
know, having something analog or like a poster from being there, there's like something really cool in the physical.
Hmm.
So great. I'm
Which
so glad it was a
also,
good concert.
yeah, no, it was great, and I also make me think on the sports right now. Like if you go
Totally.
to a game, you are invested on the game, and there is like brands have many opportunities to be part of that core memory. Because I feel what's happening with the physical activations or products is that it's easier for them to become a core memory to you than something that is
Mm,
just digital. So
totally.
something my audience, which I said I already told you, are CMOs and marketers in thought leadership position. They are always trying to figure out is how to respond to cultural moments or trends. So everyone has their own approach, and I love to hear yours. Has there been a recent pop culture moment where the brand or that happened in your career recently where you reacted or you found inspiration for a creative decision by that trend? And also, do you have a process for responding immediately or fast to those trends or moments, or does it take you time?
Yeah. I think as a consumer, that's how I think through when is it right to react to a cultural moment for a brand. And so I think through, I know authentic is like a little bit of a millennial trope, but you do have to consider that. Like, is this the right moment for the brand that you're working on? Does it feel real? Does it hit some type of consumer need? And then can we actually execute it with craft and intentionality? And I'd say most recently, we announced a huge partnership with US Soccer, which is very
Yay!
exciting. And I'm so proud of what the team executed around soccer and our partnership. I think what I love so much about it is that, weirdly enough, coffee and soccer kind of share some similar DNA. It's when you're growing up becoming a legend in soccer, you have so much discipline and craft that goes into getting you there and getting into that 90 minutes on the field. But the same thing goes for coffee. Decades and decades of work go into every cup that we serve, every cup that you make at home, right? And so both are really about this like this passion, this precision, this creativity. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's something in like showing up with everything that you've got that really connect the two brands in a beautiful way. So I'm so proud of that team. We had a beautiful kind of kickoff in Fishtown. And I had the best time. It was really fun to get to see all of these groups get together that worked so
Love it. I love it because definitely soccer is coming huge next year
hard.
in the
Totally.
US, and that you mentioned that you're doing that but at the same time it feels authentic, it feels like it just makes sense, even though it's not something that people will easily associate, right? Like coffee and sports, it's not like, oh yes, of course, but it does make sense, and I love that you bring it here. So we're seeing more brands jumping into music entertainment, which entertainment includes sport. So do you think all brands needs to entertain and engage people, or does it depend on the brand?
That's a good question. I think it depends on the brand. Back to that point of like authenticity, does it make sense for the brand? Like you have to have a little bit of that focus. I can't pretend to make up a brand, but you know when you see a brand who's gone into something, I think that there's been some like placement in Netflix shows. There's been some other interesting things where you're like,
Yeah.
that doesn't quite sit right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's that remembering who you are as a brand and does it make sense in this moment and not just going after it because it's like something that's pop culture. I think here we really focus to not follow a trend but try to create more timeless craft. And I think that that is like the lens that I would put on something from like coming from a brand like La Colombe.
Love it. So now this section is called Empowerment in Action. Since we have so many women leaders listening right now who want to make their own mark in the industry, I want to talk about the how. So, how do you make sure your ideas are heard, both now and through your career?
And something transparently I struggled with and got into my own head about, especially as I was newly into a director role, newly into a
Mm-hmm.
senior director role. But I had an incredible mentor tell me once, it's okay to repeat yourself, period. I used to think repeating myself was so annoying. Like, what am I doing? I'm not being heard. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
am I miscommunicating? Like, how do I make it more impactful? And you have to realize everyone's busy. Everyone's got 12 different things in their head. Sometimes they just don't clock it, they just don't hear it. And it's okay to say, hey, you might have heard me say this before, but, and say it again, because not all the time people are hearing and listening to every single word, and being okay with repeating yourself and not putting it back on you is huge. It was a
Love
huge
it.
breakthrough moment for me. Yeah.
It is for me now. So thank you, because it happens to me, especially because in my role, well, I treat it two ways. One, with my team, sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, should I repeat it? I don't want to be like annoying. But to them, I always tell them like, I don't want to be annoying, but blah, 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 blah. I don't want to bother, blah, blah, blah. And they always told me like, but you don't, like, it's not a bother. Like, you can come and
Totally.
say it. But I was always like, so now that you say it, I love it. And also with the clients, or when we do follow up and stuff, sometimes I'm like, should we again follow up? But then I'm like, of course, if they don't want it, they will say, you know
Like,
what, I don't. But we need to say it because it's the only way for us to. And if they don't listen, we need to repeat it because they might not. Honestly, sometimes, I mean, we're human beings.
totally. And they can
You
tell
know,
you, they can say, I heard you. Great. I'm glad you recognize you're hearing me. Right? So there is some, they can let you know that it's too much,
correct.
right?
I love that. I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it.
And
So,
thank you to the mentor who shared it for me.
oh, yes, so good. So, if a CMO or a marketer wants to start speaking publicly or writing, but doesn't know where to begin, what advice would you give them?
I think two things. One, start with an idea that you really care about. Don't try to just hop on something that is the biggest thing talked about. Maybe that's something you really care about and you can do it. But if it's coming from somewhere that you feel passionately about, it comes off so much more authentic, so much more real, and can create a really special space for you within this crazy world. Second, and I get myself caught up in this as well, is don't chase perfection. I get nervous talking to folks all the time. I shake, but like the more that you do it, the more you become more comfortable with it. And some of those imperfections like actually make it better. And I think that that's something, just don't let that stop you.
You're right about the imperfections because we want to present things sometimes in such an ideal
Totally.
way. And to me, when I'm speaking on a panel or something, I practice. These are the points that I want to make sure they go there. But then once I'm there, the things I remember or I feel people remember the most are the ones where I was like, I don't know, chilling or sharing something that really moved me inside. I think it's a beautiful advice to know that if you make any mistake, sort of
Mm,
called, because it's not necessarily mistake, that might inspire or spark like your actual personality when public speaking, and that might, help you move forward. I love it.
absolutely.
So, my love, now let's move forward with pretty much the last section of this podcast, which is a queer fight round. The rules are simple. I'm going to throw a few questions and you just need to answer whatever comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Ready.
Love it. So, culture leads brand or brand leads culture?
Ooh. Can I say both?
Yes, of course.
It's a little
That
bit
I
of a
get a
cop out.
lot. Love it. Okay, so innovation or consistency?
Consistency builds, innovation drives excitement, maybe.
Awesome. So emotion or data?
Both. Sorry. I know
No,
that's a
it's
cop
okay.
out.
Is authenticity overrated in branding?
No, we could use it more.
So, innovating in digital formats or creating offline consumer experiences?
Oof. Given our conversation, I think I'm more excited about these offline kind of micro experiences.
Love it. What's harder in marketing? To innovate or to build trust?
I think right now to build trust, but I think it kind of slides back and forth and there's a balance between the two.
Communication in the US, Spanish, English, or both? Love it. It's virality killing creativity?
Mm, that's a good question. I hope not. I want to be
Same,
hopeful that
same.
yeah, get to continue on creativity.
Love it. Do you think great ideas still need big budgets?
No.
Love it. Thank you, sweetie. So, lastly, before I let you go, this season we're building the Women Who Brand playlist and we're asking our guests to pick a song that represents their leadership style or the essence of the brand they are working on or her own essence. So, what's that song that will you add to the list?
Oof, that's a really good question. I can't wait for this playlist to be live, by the way.
Ah,
I think Tightrope by Janelle Monáe. She's incredible in general. You gotta choose a bold, powerful woman for this playlist. And that song I listen to when I need to just like pump up before a big presentation.
I
And it like
love it.
it's kind of a really interesting story about her space in the music world
I love it. I will definitely share. I mean, of course, we share this list with you, the playlist once it's ready. So, finally, love, to close with reflections. What does it mean to you to be a woman who brands? And what advice would you give to a woman in the creative industry, especially one in a leadership position?
Yeah, I think leading with curiosity and care is so critical. And it's how you approach a consumer first mindset. It's how you should launch things and it's how you should lead. And I think a little bit of advice is you were always meant to be in that room. Don't be afraid to be in that room and be imperfect. See, you're there for a reason. And remember that because it cannot feel like that all the time, but it's true.
Thank you so much, Cara, for this conversation and for sharing your insights with us. And to all women who brand listening or reading, remember your leadership shapes culture, your decisions drive impact. Your ideas can redefine brands, and your voice matters. Take what inspired you today to guide your own path. Until next time, ciao.